I'm Wild March Tarot, and these are 5 downloads for Scorpio season. Download number 1, Winter Prep. Living in harmony with nature and the seasons, it's not just about slowing down. It's also about being present and observing and preparing just as nature does for the incoming seasons. What do your winters typically look like? Does business slow down? Cold and flu season picks up. Maybe you take extra classes. Maybe your kids are busier. They have more activities. There's a general sense that you understand the cycles that winter brings to you, and oftentimes you fight against those cycles instead of just preparing for it the same way everything else in nature does. You might have to go and bury some nuts just like the squirrels do, or you might want to start preparing for your seasonal depression now. It's like, put those safeguards in place for yourself this season so that way next season they're not these constant stressors for you. Download number 2 has to do with the itchy stage. When you are healing a wound or when you're going through a growth spurt, it's super common to feel itchy, to feel stretched, to feel uncomfortable. And that is when we want to go in and we want to scratch. We want to revert. We want to go back and do the thing that provides us the most immediate relief. A lot of you are in the process of trying to break bad habits, to trying to break bad attitudes and outlooks, to instill new behaviors or new routines, and you're going through the itchy stage right now. You're feeling stretched, you're feeling triggered, you're feeling uncomfortable. You also are not necessarily in any danger. Not all discomfort, especially when you are trying to form new habits, is dangerous. And I think the impression that I get is in the past, you haven't always made it through the itchy stage. You would go back to do the thing that brought you the most relief. You would go back to the habit and you would kind of end up on the same cycle. I get the impression that this Scorpio season, you actually are going to grin and bear it, to make it through the itchy stage and like break that habit, to instill that new behavior, to implement that new routine. And it's going to be slightly uncomfortable, but I just feel like this Scorpio season, you're finally going to be able to like get over the hump with whatever this thing is. The third message that I got was about morning routines, and there's 3 groups of you. The first group of you about your morning routine, they're giving me flashes of the Gilmore Girls, particularly when Rory goes through like her first big breakup with Dean and like she doesn't want to wallow, right? And Lorelai is like, you have to wallow, it's part of the process. Part of that is like some of you don't have a morning routine, that when you lose something or when something goes wrong or when you fall down, right? When something doesn't work, it's like you don't necessarily have a process on how you process those emotions, how you mourn, how you grieve, and then also like how you pick yourself back up. And that may be contributing to some of you having a difficult time like getting back on the horse, because you don't know how to like off ramp off a negative experience, process it, and then on ramp like onto a new page. And so that might be something that you guys want to begin exploring if you can safely on your own. If not, obviously like acquire the help of a professional. The second group of morning routiners, it has to do with automatic mourning, that a lot of you, you're so used to cycles of grief, of things going wrong, that you might just like automatically, like your circadian rhythm, it's like your body knows, oh, it's time to wake up. Your body might be going, oh, it's time to grieve, it's time to mourn, just because you're so used to things going wrong. But it's just a reminder to just take a look around, because some of you might notice that the sky is exactly where it's supposed to be, that actually nothing is wrong, shoes are not dropping, like we are okay. To just alert you a little bit like to the patterns that your brain like automatically clicks into because of the cycles that you've experienced. My third group of morning routiners actually has to do with remembrance or annual grief. The body remembers when we go through a big trauma, when someone passes away, when a certain period of time or a certain time of the year is particularly challenging for us. If you happen to be one of those people where you know there is an anniversary of a trauma, of a past, some kind of challenging event that you've experienced in the past, prepare for that now. That goes back into our winter prep message from before. Don't allow yourself to kind of be like blindsided by the anniversary of this grief when we know it's coming. And if you have an anniversary or some kind of annual remembrance or grief that comes up for you, in the next few months, please begin preparing for that now. As a whole, if we look at really like the content of all of these messages, it's about safekeeping your well-being through challenging natural seasons like winter, and getting you in the habit of preparing to meet your needs before they become emergencies. Which ties really nicely into our fourth message about releasing excuses and expectations for how things are supposed to go, for how people are supposed to act, also for how you are supposed to perform. Some of you are putting way too much pressure on yourselves in regards to a thing that you don't know how to do or you haven't been doing for very long, and we need like a little bit of neutrality there. There's also kind of a message here about you holding a lot of space for a lot of people to get their ish together, and you may personally be rounding a corner where you are no longer able to make excuses for other people, which may at some point make it difficult for them to remain in your life. That may also be something that emotionally, like, you might want to kind of start thinking about preparing for now. I just in general see a lot of you maturing and outgrowing out of a lot of these relationships. Not because they're toxic necessarily, just because it feels as though you need people around you who are better examples of what like you also need to be doing. Too many cement blocks around you. And I think you're realizing that, and I think you're beginning to stop making excuses for those people because you're beginning to stop making excuses for yourself. Which brings us to our last download of today, and that is the changing of mediums and art styles. Specifically, the message that I got was, your next move is your best move, and your best move is a bold one. This is a time when you are going to be seeing a lot of people make professional and creative pivots. You, surprisingly, may also be a part of that as well, and may be jumping or pivoting to new mediums, to new art styles, to completely new modes of expression. And this is like way beyond a rebrand. This is changing the center point that not only you create out of, but also that you live your life through. In a way, it almost feels like adopting a different archetype to create from. And I think this is going to allow a lot of you to be a lot more satisfied with the work that you're producing. Because there's this feeling of like, I keep throwing like the spaghetti at the wall, but like nothing is really like sticking and hitting. It's because there is a shift in what you create or how you create. Again, your next move is your best move, and your best move is a bold one. So I also think you guys are going to be moving and creating and definitely sharing what you create much more boldly as well. So Scorpio season is a really exciting time for you guys because you seem to be growing and maturing in a lot of wisdom, but also applying that wisdom actively in your practice. And that's going to make a world of difference for you. This is also a really exciting season for acquiring more self-empowerment and a rejuvenation of your creative life. My name is Lauren B. If you enjoy these slower, more mindful and intimate style of collective readings, feel free to join me over here on TikTok, on YouTube, and in the House of Bees on Patreon.